Good evening and welcome again for the Glenwood Football Coaches Show featuring Coach Jason Gibson. We're going to talk about Glenwood football from last week's game with Tuscaloosa Academy and also the upcoming game Friday night on the road with Morgan Academy in Selma, Alabama. Coach, we said something a little bit earlier, 2 points, 2 games.
That's tough, isn't it?
Yes. Certainly. Well, let's talk about Tuscaloosa in that first quarter. They go ahead 6-0. Did they do anything that you didn't expect in that first quarter?
They did exactly what we thought they would do on film. I mean, to a T. And they have one play. Well, they have 2 plays. They have 2 plays they run really, really well. And, of course, they run the wing T or version of it or whatever you want to call it. And they run that buck sweep well. They ran that buck sweep against Bessemer. They ran against us. They ran it against, Morgan. That's what they're going to run. And our job was to shut it down. And we did an okay job, I thought. I mean, I watched other films, and they're hitting that run for 50, 60, 70 yards. I'm not sure how many explosive plays they had out of it. Maybe 2, maybe 1, because the other explosive play was a trap. But for the most part, for a team with all of those transfers, us included, I thought we did a decent job of shutting it down. It took a little time to start figuring it out because I can't simulate that in practice because I don't run that offense. It's so hard, for me to take our team and try to run their plays, especially that type of offense. It's just hard.
Well, Cameron Chambers, for those people that are Glenwood fans, Cameron Chambers is the younger brother of Keontae Chambers, who was also an outstanding player for Tuscaloosa, and he did a good job. And also they had the fullback, Kevin McNeil. But anyway, they go ahead 6-0, miss the extra point, and then in the second quarter, you move the ball. You get a turnover, move the ball, and go ahead 7-6 following a fumble recovery.
Yeah, they put the ball on the ground a lot that game. A lot of it's attributed to us going after getting the ball. We practice that. It's called every Thursday. We have 2 stations that we practice. It's called Turnover Thursday. And we spend about 10 to 15 minutes once a week on making sure that we practice taking the ball away or when the ball hits the ground that we fall on it. And we did a good job of it. And we jumped up 7-6. I knew we had a good team anyway. When we got into it 7-6, I said, all right, we got a ball game. Because everybody written us off. Everybody's like, oh, you're going to lose 40-0 and all this stuff. But
yeah, it was a good overall drive for you to go ahead. All right, so then Tuscaloosa gets the ball, and they keep running that same play and go ahead 21-7. Now, you can discuss, but the one big play in that second quarter for Tuscaloosa was, to me, was the interception in the end zone.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was 2 huge plays. I mean, we were running the ball. We had a good mix. I think I looked at the overall stats. We didn't run for a lot of yards. We're not a running team, obviously. We didn't run for a lot of yards. We ran the ball 37 times. So, and we threw it 36. That's it's about as even as you can be.
Right. And
we ran some play action down in the goal line, and we had 2 receivers wide open. And just, we ball sailed on us and went high, and they made a pick. But that was a huge play. That was a huge play, and then we turn around and we got them 3rd and 12 with a chance to stop them and score again, and they run a trap for 80 yards.
For a touchdown with Kevin McNeil, their fullback. Right. And so that makes it 21-7. McNeil had 151 yards by halftime. Of course, most of that was on that one play.
Yeah, it was 80 yards.
Yeah, so, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. So, but you're looking at it's 21-7 at the half. They've pretty much run the ball. They have, and they wound up with no yards passing on the game. Yeah, no yards. So even though that seems like, a big lead, it's really not that much because they're one-dimensional.
Well, we have that too, but I knew I was getting the ball back. We'd already driven the field a couple times. We had, that turnover. We'd stopped them a couple times. They broke a big run. It happens. It's football. You can't stop it all the time. And So going into halftime, I knew getting back, I said, hey, I told the kids, we come out and scores 21-14, you're kind of back in the game, and we'll be fine. And that was the game plan. That's why I always defer, because you can always pick up that last possession.
Right, and that's exactly what you did in that third quarter. Even though you got a couple of first downs, you had to punt, but then you got them in a pretty decent field position deep, and they fumbled. Now in the first half, they had 4 fumbles. They only lost the 1.
Right.
But in the third quarter, different story.
They started putting it on the ground.
And putting it on the ground, and this time Glenwood's defense answers the call and catches those fumbles, and you score 2 times. Can you talk about those 2 touchdowns that you did score?
Oh, the one I think was they were both Bryce, weren't they? I'm pretty sure. 2 running quarterback runs.
I believe that's
Valero scrambled on one.
Right.
Made a great run. It's funny. I'm sitting there going, as he's running around in the pocket, I'm screaming, "Throw it, throw it!" And he's running, "Throw it, run it, run it." So, and he winds up scoring, and that's what we need out of him. He has to be a threat on the ground, and he's starting to become. We made big strides from the Lee Scott game, because he would have taken a sack on that, or he would have ran backwards. And it's a slow process, and unfortunately, we're losing games in that process. But at the end of the day, if we get to where we want to be, nobody's going to remember that. Nobody's going to care. So, as a good coach, yeah, you have to win those games, but we're still in the thick of it. But you have to take those situations and be able to use those to make you better down the road. If you had come out and won all those games, sometimes you have a tendency not to fix things. And then those problems, those small little problems, that little tick, 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 tick in your car that you decide not to fix, all of a sudden your engine blows out. So it's the same thing with football. You got these little teeny problems that are tick, 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 tick. If you don't fix it early, you're gonna blow it up.
Well, I understand that one. I'm going through that right now in my wife's car. Tick, 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 and now it's being fixed.
Exactly. So.
Anyway, so it's late in the third quarter, and your defense holds them. I hate to bring this up, but it's an actual play, huge play. So you put Cameron O'Neal back, and he gets the ball on the 40 and goes 8 yards on the return, but puts the ball on the ground.
Well, a couple things happen. I think we had him pinned a little bit earlier, and we get a pass interference, maybe it was the third quarter. We get a roughing the passer on Chad Dykes, which was crazy. And then, but Cameron was making an aggressive play. If he holds on to the ball, he scores. There's nobody there, he scores, and this whole conversation is different. Right. But he doesn't. He fumbles it, and that they scored on that possession.
Yes, they did.
That was big because it was 21-21 at the time.
Right.
And we had held them. Momentum's going our way. They're tired. We're getting ready to score at home. We could have went up 28-21, and that was big. That was big.
So the reverse happens. It's
Correct.
now 28-21 Tuscaloosa. And so now both teams are kind of jockeying for position. And then you exchange possessions, and with that, and I remember that play too, we were still trying to figure out how he roughed the passer on that, but
I figured that one out either.
Okay. But anyway.
That's another story.
Yes. So Glenwood gets the ball back now. We're running out of time, but you've got the ball. And so you put together a fabulous 77-yard drive to score a touchdown to Christian on a great pass.
Well, it was kind of deja vu for them from last year. They had scored late. We got the ball with 40 seconds left. We drive down the field. Last play of the game, we throw to Christian Clausell for a touchdown to win it. And we go down this game with 40 seconds left, and we call a bang route, which is a skinny post for us. And he throws a great pass, and Christian just climbs the ladder and goes up and gets it. And I'm thinking, wow, they must be, thinking deja vu. It was a great throw, great drive down the field, to put us in a position to be in the game.
Right, and you did what you were talking about, a mix of both run and pass. Kayleen Bonds started busting those 5 and 6 yard runs that are important to keep that passing attack
Yeah, it is, and I think we've realized what we are. We're a throwing team. We're going to throw the ball 30 times a game. I've got the quarterback, I've got the receivers. I've got a great running back in Kayleen and John Burnett, Lawrence, Vincent, and even Navy Harris if I can keep them healthy. But with JB and Bonds, we can still, churning out 100 yards for us is perfect. It keeps them honest because both those guys can bust it. Both of them can catch. They're both great athletes, and they're better athletes than most people in the field. So it gives us an opportunity that, yeah, you're right. We can throw, we can run, we can throw, we can run. It's a really good balance.
Well, I think that was the key in that last drive, because then you score, it's 28-27, and you're lining up for that extra point, which we have to talk about.
Sure.
And it looked like there was a high snap, but that was not, because I believe I asked you about this after the game, that was not a called try for two. You were going for the point in the tie, right?
Well, as soon as we scored, see, you sit there, that's what's terrible about football. And that's what's great about sitting in the stands. You don't have to make those decisions.
Right.
You can make those decisions after the decision. Right. You don't have to make them when you got 25 seconds. So, I'm not going to lie to you. My gut said go for it. That's how I am. I wanted to end the game. I thought they were on the ropes. I turned around to my bench and sidelines, and everybody's screaming, kick it. And I got the best kicker in the league. Everybody's screaming, kick it, kick it, kick it. Let's go into overtime. So I said, okay, I'm not going to hesitate. I'm not going to, I kind of thought back to the Lee Scott game going forward on fourth down. And I thought maybe if I just punted it. But we went for it. It was a bad snap. It was behind him. Maybe he could have put it down. Maybe he couldn't have. He picks it up and he rolls out. My only issue with it, and I told Mason, was you got to throw the ball. He said, well, nobody was open. Who cares? If you don't throw it, we'll never know. But I will say this, kind of sarcastically. If you really think that I faked the field goal for a 2-point play, you're crazy. I mean, that would be the dumbest call ever. I mean, if you're going to go for two, line up and run a good offensive play. Don't fake a field goal with a holder and a kicker and one guy in the route. And I heard a couple of people ask me that, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do you watch football? Really?
Well, it did look like that you were going for the extra point, because
we were kicking it all the way.
Yeah,
we were kicking it all the way. I figured we got them in overtime. I've got big receivers. I can score from anywhere on the field with a fade route. They had we were really doing a good job throwing the ball. I think he threw for 260 or something.
Right.
But I was not going to fake an extra point for a 2-point play. That's crazy. So.
Right. And people probably had kind of a awe when that happened, but then your guys are still in the game. Yeah. Everybody in the stadium did know that you were going to try the onside kick. Camacho hits a perfect squibber that hits the Tuscaloosa player, and it was, believe it was Niger Bell that recovered the onside kick for you.
We do a special onside kick. I don't know if you noticed how we did that, but we start a guy, and I kind of use the rules in my favor. But instead of starting, on an onside kick, everybody lines up with their hand down, and the guy stands there with his arms up, and he goes, ready, go, and he drops his arms, and everybody runs, I start one player, my best player, Bonds. I bring him in a sideways motion. He gets a full head of steam, dead sprint. And the kicker times it up to when he hits the line. So the kicker's literally looking at Kaleem running full speed. And he runs, because high school rules is you can only be 5 yards off the ball for kickoff. You can't get a running start like 20 yards back. So to beat the rule, we start all the way on one side, and I get a full sprint, 15, 20 yards at an angle inside that 5-yard lines, and Camacho times it up and kicks it. And when he kicks that ball, Bonds was already at 10 yards. It was great. We rep it every Thursday in practice. That's our special teams onside play, and we rep it, and it was just, that's why I'm not so we got to change the world. What are we going to do? Because the things that we're doing and trying to accomplish in practice are showing up in the game, and we're taking advantage of it. Now, the issue is, can we make it all show up? We practice turnover Thursdays. We've been getting turnovers. Maybe we need to be, I'm not going to be sarcastic, but, we practice the onside kicks. We get the onside kicks. So there's some little things. We just got to tie this stuff in with defense and stop the turnovers on offense. I think when you look back at Monroe, you look at, and not Lee Scott, that's still an anomaly, but, you look at the Tuscaloosa game, when we turned the ball over 4 times and we botch an extra point and we lose by 1, we have continuity and mental discipline problems. And when all we got to do is play a basic game and not make a mistake. If we just played a basic football game and didn't make a mistake and the other team just beat us, then so be it. But it's not happening. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. But yeah, so we get the onside kick.
So you're at the 50, but you only have, less than 30 seconds.
I only need 20 yards. I got a great kicker. Same situation we were in, Lee Scott.
But couldn't get a first down.
Well, a couple things happened. One, they sent Christian Clausell off the field for taking his helmet off during a timeout. I haven't figured that one out yet. During the stoppage of play, Christian took his helmet off to adjust something. They forced him out. And so when they forced him out, we were lining up for the play. So I got to send a player into the game, no timeouts, who didn't know the play. So I don't know how that worked out, but it did. So we throw a play to Cam. Cam runs. Maybe he was out of bounds, maybe he wasn't out of bounds. It was the same official from the Lee Scott game that marked Christian Clausell short. It was the same official from the Lee Scott game that marked us for an eligible receiver downfield that I did turn into the league, and the league confirmed that it was not. So they mark him in bounds, we get up, we spike the ball. Here's where it gets kind of weird. Cam is hurt.
Right. He had to go off to the side. He was was it cramps?
He had cramps in both legs. So he is maybe, and I'm not exaggerating, he's maybe 2-3 feet from the sideline on their bench now. So picture this. He's on their bench.
Right.
If I'm on the field of play, I can touch him on the sideline. He's right there. Our trainer's working on him. I go over and check at him. And he's in a lot of pain. I've never had a cramp like that, so I don't know. He's screaming. And they got both legs up. I mean, like he's giving birth. I mean, he's in pain. And we're there for 2-3 minutes. I mean, they can't get the cramps to go away. Our trainer's over there. The first down markers are up. Cameron is between the first down markers. So it's not like the first down markers are down on the 30 and he's way down on the other 20 on the sideline. He is on the sideline between the markers. The officials start the 25-second play clock and run a play. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm waiting for for the trainer to bring our player, over to our sideline. And the head white hat tells me that our trainer's tending to him. He's not in the field of play. We can continue. I've been in 350 football games in my lifetime. I've never seen a play continue with an opposing player on another team's sideline. Not on the bench, not back on the fence because it's an emergency. I mean, he was on the sideline by the first down marker on the field of play. And they made us run. I got to tell you, I didn't know what to do because I was trying to get Cameron off the field, and they didn't allow us. And then we ran 2 plays and ran the game out with him. We finished the game with him on the sidelines I'm not going to say their bench because when I say their bench, you think he's on the bench. Right. No. He finished the game on their sidelines on his back, still getting tended to, and we ran 2 offensive plays. And it was weird. It was a lot of confusion that last 30 seconds because of the helmet incident. It's not adding up. It didn't add up that Tuscaloosa ran the ball 47 times. And they did not get 1 holding penalty the entire game. They had 1 penalty the entire game. That was a delay game. It was 1 penalty for delay game, and we had 12 penalties for 111 yards. Now, and I've said this before, we committed every one of them. We committed every one of those fouls. Deserves every one of them. Even the Chad Dykes. He probably did hit the quarterback. We deserved it. The holdings, when we threw the ball 30 times, we had 3 holding penalties. We held. They ran the ball 47 times, and they didn't hold 1 time.
It is, yeah. It is what it is, and it was tough. You mentioned about Cameron being out. He wasn't the only one. Both teams, and I think, and I'll use an excuse for both teams.
Sure.
Both teams had players that had to come out of the game because of cramps. And I feel like 2 things did that. One was that it was extremely humid and hot Friday night. The other thing was that both teams didn't have a full week of practice.
No, that's a good point. We came off that Hurricane Irma, and I didn't figure this out till after the game. But of course, Kelsey was hurt. Kelsey has he had a sinus cold, and we've been hit bad this week. I guarantee you, I've had 6 players out at every practice this week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Throwing up, head colds, sinus infections, heat exhaustion. I mean, we have just been hammered with. I looked over on defense on Tuesday's practice. We had 8 guys on defense. Everybody else is hurt. I moved the guys from offense to defense to help out, and then I lose 2 other linemen on offense. They got hurt. And it's just a constant thing. But Friday night, that's why I kind of thought we should go in overtime, because they were kind of wearing out.
Yes, they were.
We were wearing out too. But, we're not as good a shape as I thought we were. But some of the guys, Kelsey was on Mucinex and NyQuil, and he was on every medication you could think of in his body, and he just kept pushing his body. Navy Harris was hurt. Cameron was cramping. Scotty Anderson, ligaments in his thumb. It's adding up. It's adding up quick. But you know what? It's adding up for every team.
Right.
Every team. Tuscaloosa's best running back broke his leg last week. So they didn't have him. Bessemer's, best player, hit their best lineman, he broke his leg. He's out for the year. So everybody has to deal with this stuff. It's just how you manage it.
Right. And that's true. But the guy that get the 80-yard touchdown in the first half had to go out twice for cramps.
Right.
And Chambers pulled up a little bit there. It looked like he was having a bit of a problem. So it was not something that was, I think that the short week of practice for both teams was a detriment for both teams as far as physicality.
And maybe more so for us, because that is not the type of offense that you can prepare for in 2 days.
Right.
And then when I heard about the school cancellations and the practices, I'm thinking, what are we going to do? Because that makes it hard.
Yes. Now, your opponent, you're on the road to Selma, Alabama, to play the Morgan Academy Senators. And the Senators last year was...
Oh, they put a whooping on us.
Yeah.
They came up here and whooped us up and down that field and bragged about it. They were so excited. We were 4-0 at the time, and they came up there. I think it beat us 35-6. They scored 3 special teams touchdowns. That was just a debacle of a game for us. You talk about not showing up, and we were all standing there just in shell shock, myself included. I turned at the end of the game. I felt like I left the Twilight Zone. I'm like, what? No. What just hit us? And them little suckers can run. And they can hit, and you better watch out. You better show up.
Right.
They'll wear you out.
That senior running back, Sam Bracken, number 5, he had an outstanding game against Hooper, where they won big, and he was obviously a good running back, and it's somebody that y'all are going to have to look at this Friday.
Their best player, and what we got to take him out. Eliminate their best player, eliminate their, If you're right-handed, I want to force you to right. If this is an old saying, if you right-handed, I want to force you to right left-handed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what we have to do. So he's a really good player. They are probably, to me, the best coach team in the league. Of course, Glenwood. But no, they are. They are the best coach. They do a lot with a little. And they are technically sound. They are fundamentally sound. They're disciplined. They're just a really good team. Where they run into problems when they face teams that have just way more talent, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you just can't outcoach talent.
Right.
And I think that happened with. They played Monroe. Monroe beat them 60-29, or 59-20. Tuscaloosa beat them 28-6. So we've had common opponents, and maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, their quarterback too was a good passer.
Yeah, it's not bad.
He's accurate. Not a big guy, but they do. Whereas some teams will run the ball all the time, and they'll line up in an eye and that sort of thing. But it looked like to me they'll also spread it out.
They have a ton of formations like we do. They're going to screen, throw it, run it, screen, boot, deep. They're going to. They call all the plays at the line. Most of them. They all look at the little wristbands. The coaches from up top look down, see what defense we're in, and try to make the plays accordingly. And it's going to be a tough night. Our thing is, to the point one, is I talk with the defense. We got to start holding people under 20 points. Defensive. Or we're not going to win anything in the playoffs. We're not going to win the championship, and we're not going to win in the playoffs, because if we, there's going to be games where it's going to be 14-13, and you got to be able to hold. You can't give up, but then on offense, we can't give up 4 turnovers, because then you look at it and say, well, defense is giving up 28 points. Well, the offense gave them the ball 4 more times. So it works hand in hand, but in general, we need to eliminate those mistakes, especially against Morgan. And if we don't turn the ball over against Morgan, kind of like the Lee Scott game, we're going to score 35, 40 points. But even in the Lee Scott game, we scored 35, we missed a field goal, and we turned the ball over, we threw 1 pick, turned the ball over twice, and we missed a field goal. You know, Tuscaloosa, we scored 27 points, and we turned the ball over 4. That's 4 possessions. If we score on 2 of them, it's 42. You know, we lead the AISA in scoring, I think, I'm pretty sure, points per game. But we just got to, play better defense.
Well, and then, of course, that's the thing that you're wanting your team to do this Friday is put that game together, both offense and defense. And if that's the case, that will be a good and interesting thing. And then you come back the next week, come home to against a Pike team right now that's 5-1. So we'll see what they do Friday. And we'll talk about the Morgan game next Wednesday. We would like to remind those viewers for CTV Beam that the replay of that Tuscaloosa game will follow this show at 8 o'clock. And we appreciate you watching Glenwood football with head coach Jason Gibson, and hope that you'll stay tuned for the replay of the Tuscaloosa Glenwood game on CTV Beam Game of the Week.